Foreign Minister Penny Wong will visit China this week, meeting her counterpart Wang Yi on Wednesday, the 50th anniversary of Australia-China relations. The trip follows years of strained diplomatic relations between the countries. And joining me live is Senior Analyst at the Australia Strategic Policy Institute, Malcolm Davis. Good to see you again, Malcolm. So we've gone from China not even picking up the phone to a Foreign Minister visiting Beijing. Your initial thoughts on Penny Wong's visit to China?
Look, I think China, the government in Beijing has realised that wolf warrior diplomacy has been an absolute failure. It's made more adversaries of China than it has won friends. And so essentially they're trying a new tack with a new government in Canberra. They're trying to encourage Australia to talk again, which I'm all for dialogue with China. But we need to go into this with our eyes open and recognise that the key issues that created the tension in the first place, in particular China's activities on the world stage and in the region, as well as its approach to involvement in Australia's internal affairs, remain unresolved. And so, therefore, whilst this dialogue between Penny Wong and the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is important, I don't think it's going to lead to a sudden breakthrough or a reset in the relationship.
So let's talk about wolf warrior politics, because you did mention that China is now realising that it's not in its best interest to do that. Do you think that there is internal pressure on President Xi Jinping to move away from wolf warrior politics, or is he realising himself that perhaps it's not the best thing for his country? Why do you think, and has there been a particular turning point in them turning away from those sort of dealings with other countries?
Well, for starters, no one pressures President Xi. I think that he is the one that is in charge there in every respect. So I think what has happened is that he and his closest advisors have reckoned that wolf warrior diplomacy over the recent years has created a lot of pushback against China. It's united the region against China. So they're trying a more softly approach. They haven't given up on their ambitions, which is to essentially establish a hegemonic dominance in the region, what they call a community of common destiny. They haven't given up on their determination to invade and annex Taiwan and force it into the People's Republic of China. They haven't given up on their determination to ultimately dominate and write the rules for the international system at the expense of US leadership. But what they're trying to do now is a more gentle approach to achieve that. And it's more about winning friends than it is about bullying countries like Australia.
This is not the first meeting between Penny Wong and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi, meeting a few times since Labor has been elected to government. So do you know, what is the relationship like between Wong and Wang? Is it close? Is it tense? Can we draw any clues from past meetings?
Look, I'm not familiar with the intimate aspect of the relationship between the two foreign ministers in terms of how they get along. But certainly at a business level, I think that they will have productive discussions. They will have, a good dialogue. And I think that they'll try to do that in a way that sustains that dialogue into the future. But as I said, the key issues that generate the instability and the insecurity are still there. It's China's ambitions to ultimately be the dominant power in the region, to take Taiwan, and to essentially write the rules of the international system and establish a global community of common destiny with China in charge. And I think that liberal democracies such as Australia, the United States and others are understandably opposed to that future where it's a China-centric world. We want to see an international system that is free and open, where the Indo-Pacific states are equal under international law and not subject to being coerced. And that's what we're working towards.
You're not very positive on any practical outcomes from the meeting. Penny Wong will make the case for China to begin lifting sanctions of Australian exports worth $20 billion. So do you think it's a low chance that China could move here? Reckon we could see sanctions lifted in 2023?
Look, I think from a Chinese perspective, the smart thing to do would be to lift those sanctions and to release Australians that are detained without charge for many years under the Chinese legal system. That would be the smart move by Beijing to do. I suspect that they will lift some sanctions, not all. I'm not sure about releasing Australians. But I think that what you will see is an ongoing dialogue at these high levels in foreign policy terms. But as I said, it's the key issues that still remain unresolved and are very difficult to resolve. For example, the issue of Taiwan. Will they be prepared to give Taiwan the freedom to choose their own path, or are they going to impose their control on Taiwan through the use of force?
And with those high-level talks that you speak about, how much do you think Australia can keep the peace in the Indo-Pacific?
I think we have an obligation to try, and we're doing so through our relationships with the United States, Japan and others, both the AUKUS agreement, the Quad agreement with Japan and India, vital agreements to ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific region and to maintain a stable and secure region. Part of it is foreign policy dialogue with China. Part of it is deterrence and dissuasion of China to prevent them from making mistakes such as acting against Taiwan with military force. So we have to have both paths going forward. We can't afford just to sit down and have a diplomacy path and do nothing about deterrence. So those relationships with the US, with Japan, with India, with others are all really important.
Malcolm Davis, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.